How's it going, everyone? It's Caleb here, and today we are going to be talking about a game on the PlayStation 2. This is a game that I rented once growing up, and I recently picked it up, played through it again, and it's actually not too bad of a video game for what it is. That game is Chicken Little. Now, Chicken Little is a Disney movie, and obviously this is a video game based off of that Disney movie. I really liked the movie growing up. Apparently the movie was actually hated by quite a few people. But as a kid, I thought the movie was really good, and I still like a lot of the lessons and the moral lessons that the movie has in it. I think that it's a good movie to kind of show the importance of, having a father figure and everything like that. So I think it's a pretty good movie. But apparently a lot of people didn't like it. I don't know why. However, the video game is also pretty darn good. I really like the video game. It's an action-adventure game, which I'm not a big fan of the term action-adventure, because that could mean 100 different things. This game has a bunch of different genres all combined in it. I feel like that's the easiest way to explain action-adventure. It's a bunch of genres all combined together to make a video game. So what is in this video game? Well, you have 3D platforming levels. You have some Star Fox style levels, which is really weird but cool at the same time. You're on a rail and you're flying in a spaceship, like on these on-rail levels, and you're just going around shooting other spaceships and stuff. It's really fun, and I really like those levels, actually. And then you have some mini-game levels that are like you playing dodgeball and stuff like that. Graphically, the game is okay for a PlayStation 2 game. I think that it's kind of like the middle of the road in terms of PlayStation 2 quality graphics. The game is fun. I do think that the levels are pretty well designed. I never had any issues with performance on this game. It performed fine throughout the entire playthrough. Didn't have any issues with really anything in terms of this game. It played very well. The level design is pretty well done on 3D platforming levels. The mini games are really fun, and like I already said, I love the Star Fox style levels. And the later on level, there's one level specifically that is very much inspired by Star Fox, where even the boss fight, like the boss mothership, flies in like how they do in Star Fox, and I thought that was awesome seeing that happen. And the boss fight is really fun too. And there's a couple of boss fights in this game. You have that Star Fox style boss fight, but then you also have a boss fight at the end of the game, and I really enjoyed doing both of those. This game is challenging on some levels, not really the 3D platforming levels. Those levels are pretty easy. It's usually the Star Fox style levels that are actually the ones that provide the most difficulty. That and some driving levels. There's some driving levels in this game, and trying to basically get enough time on the clock so you can complete the level is kind of hard to do. You have to collect these clocks, and the clocks will add time to your clock, and you have to get to the end of the level before time runs out, and trying to do that can be pretty challenging, especially on some of the later levels. So that's something that is definitely difficult, but for the most part, this game, other than that, is pretty easy. It does have 3 different difficulties. It has easy, normal, and hard mode. I went ahead and played through it on normal mode, and like I said, I feel like it gave a good challenge on the levels that needed a challenge. I don't think 3D platforming levels necessarily need a challenge, but in terms of the Star Fox style levels, in terms of the racing style levels, in terms of that type of stuff, I think that those are the type of levels that you may want a challenge for. The game does let you play as some other characters in other missions as well. Like, it lets you play as the duck at certain points, and also lets you play as the pig. And it actually lets you play as even the mayor, who's a turkey at one point, and control a cannon and try to shoot down a bunch of, alien spaceships that are flying at you and stuff like that. So it does let you play as some other characters, but for the most part, you're going to be playing as Chicken Little. And the levels are where it's just like 3D platforming. They're pretty standard. You're just going around and doing some really easy platforming stuff. You have some enemies that are pretty easy to defeat as well. They can defeat you, and if they do, it actually will just respawn you back at a checkpoint. There's no life system in this game, which is a good thing. So if you run out of health, you'll just spawn right back at the checkpoint you were at, which is good. There's some levels where it will make you replay the entire thing if you run out of health, but it's mainly like the racing levels that do that, and more of the special levels. It's never the 3D platforming levels. It's always like some of the kind of oddball style levels. So that's fine, honestly. It's not a big deal. And you eventually get good at those levels, and good enough at those levels where you recognize the pattern of what you're supposed to do, and you can get through it pretty easily. Now, this game I've talked pretty good about for the most part, and I do think that this is a pretty good game, especially considering you can usually get this for under $10. But there is one thing that I'm not a huge fan of, and that is that this game does feel a little bit rushed towards the ending. At the end of the game, they do reuse part of the same level that you do earlier in the game, and I wasn't a big fan of that. It was way too similar. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it was basically the same level. So I wasn't a big fan of that. That was something that probably shouldn't have been in the final game. They probably should have spent more time making the level different, but for some reason it seems like they reused a lot of the same level for one of the later missions. So I wasn't a fan of that. And another thing that I wish was a little bit better was there is a baseball mission. And the baseball mission would be fun if they let you play for more than one hit. You literally hit the ball once and the mission is over. And it's just like, oh, well, this actually could have been a fun mini game if you would have actually let me play through the entire baseball game. But instead, I only get to hit it once, and that's the end of it. So that was a bit of a bummer. I would have liked to actually have a full-on baseball game, and I would have liked to be able to go back and play some of these like mini games and stuff outside of the campaign, and I didn't see a way to do that. There is a way you can unlock mini games. However, when I tried to play them, it said that I had to have a second controller plugged in. So apparently those are split screen only, which is kind of annoying. To unlock the minigames, if you are still interested in unlocking them, you have to try to find a bunch of like baseball cards in the levels. And there's like 5 baseball cards in each level, and if you can find them, then eventually it will allow you to unlock a minigame. I don't know exactly how it works because I found 5 cards in a bunch of different levels, but when I went to unlock the minigame, it said I only had 5 cards total. So maybe it's like you have to collect 5 cards in each level, and then it'll give you a total of 1 card that you can use to unlock a minigame. I don't know. It was really weird when I went to the minigame section, and it said I only had 5 cards when I know I collected way more than that. So that was an odd decision. Wasn't a big fan of that. But at the end of the day, I can't play the minigames without a second player anyway, so it was kind of pointless. But that's one of the collectibles you can go after. And I guess if you were wanting more replay value, well, you can go after the rest of the cards that you missed when you played through the game for the first time. Now, the other thing that you collect in this game is acorns. The acorns are basically what gives you health. When you get 10 acorns, it will give you a heart back, and that is the health system in this game. And when you'll get to certain points in this game where you'll also have to collect coins. And basically the whole point of the coins is that you collect enough to use a soda machine, and then it will give you like this mission where you are flying using a shaken up soda bottle, and you're flying through the air and you're trying to like dodge objects and stuff. But to get to that level, you have to collect enough coins to get the soda machine working. So that's the other type of levels and the other type of collectibles that you can find in this game. So what's the final verdict? Is this game worth picking up? I think if you can find it for under $10, I think it's worth a shot. I don't think it's a bad game. It's not the greatest game of all time, but it definitely has some fun missions. And you know, a lot of people don't like movie tie-in games, but I actually think that if you can find a lot of these movie tie-in games for under $10, I think that they're worth a shot, you know, because a lot of them are just simply 3D platformers with some twists and turns in them. And if you're like me and you love 3D platformers, well, you're probably going to enjoy video games like this. So I recommend it. If you can find it for under $10, give it a shot. It's not a bad game at all. It's not perfect, but it does have a decent length behind it as well. It took me about 5 to 6 hours to beat this game, so that's a decent length. So if you just want to play it for then, you know, have a fun afternoon playing this game, you could do that. And I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it if you can find it for under $10 at a local game store. Don't go crazy spending a lot of money on this because I don't think you'll get that much value out of it. But again, if you can find it for a cheap price, maybe give it a shot. But thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe button down below, and I will see you in the next review. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.